I married Anthony for 40 years, and I have been blamed by him for 40 years. He always felt that it was because of my existence that his beloved refused him. Later, he said he wanted to make up for his regrets and travel the world with her. He left me, who had just broken my leg, alone at home, making it impossible for me to escape during the fire, and I was burned to death, and after my death, I went to neither heaven nor hell, but to the year 1976, before I married Anthony. This time I will definitely stay away from Anthony, that disaster. I really want to see if he can live his good life without me. Chapter 1. Anthony was the first batch of college students after the restoration of the college entrance examination. While I was just a village girl, Anthony and everyone around him thinks I am not worthy of him, including our son. But everyone forgets that when Anthony went to the countryside, it was my family and I who took care of him. When Anthony was unable to carry or lift anything, it was I who saved food for him, preventing him from starving in the countryside. I helped him secure a job as a primary school teacher in the village, allowing him time to review and participate in the college entrance examination. When he was sick, I called my brother to take him to the hospital and even helped pay for the medical expenses. If it weren't for me, Anthony would probably have died long ago. Where would he have found the opportunity to complain about me for so many years? I once thought about divorcing Anthony, but by then our son had already been born, and I wanted to give the child a complete family. Thus, I wasted away 40 years, until Anthony's heartthrob, Miriam, became single again. She came to find Anthony, saying she wanted to travel the world with him, hoping to make up for the time they had missed over the years with the miles they were about to cover. When I heard the news, I had just recently fallen down the stairs, and my leg fracture had not yet healed. I am unable to move, and this is precisely when I need someone to take care of me. Anthony, I have worked tirelessly for you all these years. I have taken care of you and this household. Your mother has been bedridden for over 10 years, and I have been the only one looking after her. Your brother and sister-in-law are pursuing their careers, leaving the children for me to raise, and I have managed to provide for them well. Now that I am unable to move and need care, you want to go on a trip with someone unrelated. How can you treat me this way? Do you even have a conscience? Anthony said, Bianca, it is your greatest fortune that I can marry you. What more could you possibly want? The things you do, any nanny could do. What's so remarkable about that? If it weren't for your attentiveness back then, which led Miriam to misunderstand, how could I have missed out on so many years with her for no reason? I said, Anthony, was I the one holding a knife to your throat, forcing you to marry me? I was being attentive to you, and when I brought you those meals, you didn't refuse them at all. Anthony said, I have made up my mind. No matter what you say, I will not change my mind. Why don't you call our son and have him come back to take care of you? After saying that, Anthony walked away without looking back. I lay in bed for a long time, not moving at all. My son, just like his father, is also an ungrateful wretch. Years ago, influenced by his grandmother, he has never been close to me and looks down on me just like everyone else. My life has truly been a failure. I lay in bed, my thoughts drifting far away, recalling the days I have lived over the past 40 years. It was only when a thick smoke began to fill the air that my consciousness started to return. The sounds of a crowd echoed in the hallway, and someone shouted, "Fire!" I wanted to get out of bed, but my legs, encased in plaster, were unable to move. I picked up the phone to call for help, only to realize that my phone had been broken by Anthony during our earlier argument. Before falling into a coma, I thought to myself, it might be better to end it this way. After all, there was nothing in my life worth holding on to. If I could do it all over again, I would definitely stay away from Anthony and live a brand new life. I didn't expect that my wish really came true. When I woke up again, I found that I had returned to the time before I married Anthony. Chapter 2. It was the autumn of 1976, the time for the harvest. During the harvest season, the tasks are heavy and the time is tight. Everyone in the village has to go out to work. Even the little children have to come and pick up the wheat ears. Even the experienced farmers can't stand such labor intensity, let alone me, who hadn't done farm work for decades. I rubbed my waist and took a moment to recover before I bent down again to cut the wheat. Seeing me like this, my mother said with concern, "Just hold on for 2 more days, and the autumn harvest will be over. I asked your brother to buy some meat on his way home from work today, so we can make dumplings to eat. Everyone can replenish themselves well." Although I had long achieved the freedom to eat meat in my previous life, this body of mine clearly lacks oil and moisture. When I heard the word dumplings, I couldn't help but swallow. It's no wonder I'm not successful. Those around me who were working also showed envious looks when they heard the word dumplings, especially Anthony. Looking at his expression, he has already started dreaming about being able to eat dumplings tonight. It's no wonder he thinks so much. If it were in the past, I would indeed often save my rations for Anthony. But now, well, he can only dream. My hometown is a place called Qingshui Village. The scenery here is beautiful, and as long as the villagers work hard, mixing coarse and fine grains, they won't go hungry throughout the year. But these people do not include those educated youth from the city. They are used to city life and cannot adapt to farm work. Some families in the educated youth group have better conditions and will send them some money and tickets as subsidies. But obviously, Anthony does not belong to this category. Anthony has 3 brothers, and he is the second oldest. After his older brother graduated from middle school, the family spent money to get him a job, so his older brother smoothly stayed in the city. After his younger brother graduated, Anthony's mother gave up her job so that his younger brother could also stay in the city. Only Anthony, who was neither favored by his father nor loved by his mother, ended up going to the countryside alone. In his situation, the family would definitely not subsidize him. However, Anthony doesn't think there's anything wrong with how things are done at home. Instead, he often saves his own rations to send back home out of a sense of pride. My dad is the accountant for the brigade, and my brother has a job in the city, so our family's situation is among the best in the village. At that time, I had just turned 18, and looking back, I was still just a child. Anthony was always hovering around me, and he would often recite some sentimental poetry. Having never seen much of the world, I naturally thought Anthony was pursuing me, and after a few kind words from him, I easily opened my heart to him. As a result, I never expected that my kindness towards him would later be described by him as me clinging to him. It was simply a living version of the story of Dongua and the wolf. Fortunately, I have lived another life, and in this lifetime, I will not be foolish again. After my brother got off work, he came to take over for my mom, allowing her to go home and make dumplings while he went to cut wheat. So by the time we finished work and returned home, the dumplings were already cooked. My mom put the dumplings on several plates, allowing each of us to take one plate to eat. When she handed me the plate, she gave me a look of disappointment, as if I were not living up to her expectations. My mom said, "Eat a few more, look at how skinny you are." I really raised a burden. I know what my mom means. How could I hide the fact that I secretly help Anthony from my mom? She must think that this time I would also, like usual, take all my rations to give to Anthony. But there isn't just me as a child in the family, and my contribution at home is only second to my 4-year-old niece, ranking second to last in the family. Even if my mom feels sorry for me, she can't let the whole family help me raise Anthony. But as a mother, she is also afraid that I will go hungry, so when she divides the food, she always gives me a little more than others. Truly, it is a pity for all parents. After my little niece took her plate of dumplings, she raised one up to feed me. I will give my portion to my aunt to eat, otherwise my aunt will definitely send all the dumplings to that little pretty boy, and my aunt will go hungry. After listening to my niece, I truly felt ashamed. It turns out even a 4-year-old knows that I am being a doormat for Anthony. I fed my niece the dumpling she was holding, and I also divided the dumplings on my plate, giving 2 to each person. I said, "I have enough to eat. You all should eat while it's hot." Then everyone saw me start eating with chopsticks, one bite after another, until I finished all the dumplings on the plate. Seeing me like this, everyone was so shocked that they forgot to eat. I said, "You all hurry up and eat. Just looking at me won't fill you up." My brother said, "Aren't you going to send dumplings to that little white face anymore?" I said, "I've figured it out. Anthony and I just aren't on the same wavelength. There's no need to force things together. Before, I was just being foolish, but now I've cleared my head, and I won't make the same mistakes again." Everyone looked at me, and no one spoke again, but I could still see the distrust in their eyes. Well, my previous simp behavior really left a deep impression, but it's okay, time will prove everything. Chapter 3. That night, the sound of cats meowing echoed outside my window. This is my secret code with Anthony. In the past, he would always do this, and then I would go out with some snacks to find him. This time, I actually didn't want to pay attention to him, but I was afraid he would disturb my family's rest, so I still went out. My elder brother and my little niece call Anthony pretty boy, but it's not really that fitting. When Anthony first arrived, compared to the villagers who were sunbathing all day, he was indeed quite fair. However, after 2 years of working in the sun and wind, his face has now become quite dark. Nevertheless, even so, Anthony still wore a white shirt. His white shirt is so worn out that it's about to fall apart. It looks a bit small on him and doesn't fit at all. In the past, I thought he looked good like this, but now I just find it mismatched. There are so many families in the educated youth point that are better off than him, yet I haven't seen anyone wearing a white shirt all day. Anthony stared at my empty hands as soon as I came out. When he noticed I had nothing in my hands, he showed a look of dissatisfaction. Why did you come out empty-handed? What about the dumplings? I said. Of course I ate them. Otherwise, why would I make dumplings? Am I supposed to feed them to the dog? Hearing me compare him to a dog, Anthony was quite displeased, but he thought that based on my usual attitude towards him, I must have said it by coincidence and not intentionally insulted him. Anthony persistently asked, So you have nothing to give me? I haven't had enough to eat tonight, and I haven't had meat in a long time. I pretended not to understand and said, Didn't you say that everyone from the city has money? If you want to eat meat, just go buy it yourself. My words really tore away Anthony's fig leaf. Although he is poor, he has always shown a sense of superiority in front of me, this village girl, but with the way he can't even fill his stomach, who wouldn't see whether he has money or not? I used to keep quiet to save him face. Now, well, I can't help but want to rub salt in his wounds every day. Anthony was left speechless by what I said, but still wanted to turn the tables, so he stammered out, There are too many people at our educated youth point. It's not good to eat alone. There are a few families at the educated youth point who are not well off, and they would feel jealous if they saw it. I always have to consider their self-esteem. After saying this, he seemed to regain that superior feeling of himself, and he asked, Since you haven't taken anything, what are you doing out here? I replied, There was a cat meowing, and I was afraid it would come over and steal something, so I came out to chase the cat away. And here I am, running into you. Do you have something to do here? You definitely aren't here to find me. We are not related, and it's late at night with just the two of us. What if someone sees us and misunderstands? Hearing me say this, Anthony thought I was deliberately trying to annoy him. Bianca, so you were actually angry about this. I don't let you talk to others about our relationship because I'm afraid those people at the educated youth point will find out and make sarcastic remarks. I'm just an old man borrowing your light. Whatever they say will definitely be unpleasant. You have to consider me, right? I hurriedly said, Hey, Anthony. Don't play tricks on me. What relationship do we have? I just felt sorry for you before and treated you to a few meals. How can you mistake my kindness for something else and ruin my reputation? Anthony said, Bianca, I'm giving you a way out, and you're still pushing your luck, aren't you? If you're going to have this attitude, I won't come looking for you anymore. I casually picked up a dry branch and waved it at him. Hurry up and leave. Don't come back again. Anthony listened to my words and angrily walked back. After walking just a few steps, he saw that I had no intention of calling him back, so he turned around and came back. Bianca, I know you are throwing a little tantrum, trying to force me to admit our relationship, but I can't stand those rumors since I lived and ate with those educated youth. How about this? Your sister-in-law is moving to the city with your brother, so the position of that village primary school teacher just happens to be vacant. You arranged for me to work as a teacher at the village primary school, so I allow you to treat me well in public. But we need to agree beforehand that I can't give you any response in front of others. I have my pride too. Seeing Anthony's self-righteous expression, I couldn't help but pick up the branch in my hand and hit him with it. You have pride, yet you can say such things? Why should I give my sister-in-law's job to you? While dodging, Anthony said, I've always been a city person. I can't get used to farm work. Anyway, I graduated from high school, and my education level is high. Teaching at the village primary school is good for the kids. I said, Didn't you say that your family had the ability to keep you in the city, and it was you who wanted to contribute to rural development, so you came here? Only by going to the fields to grow crops can you demonstrate your value. Just focus on farming your land and stop dreaming about a job that doesn't belong to you. As I spoke, the stick in my hand didn't stop. Anthony was dodging around, and eventually got angry. He threw down a harsh remark, Bianca, you've made me angry. Now I not only want the job at the village primary school, but I also want you to kneel and apologize to me. Otherwise I will never forgive you no matter what you say. I said, If you want to dream, go back to your educated youth point and lie on the Kong to do so. I only ask you to have some dignity and stay away from me. But you need to hurry up and pay me back the 30 yuan you borrowed before. If you don't pay it back, I might have to tell the village chief to deduct it from your work points. Think carefully. Without work points you won't be able to get any food. When the time comes, even with money, you won't be able to buy food. After chasing away Anthony, I entered the courtyard. As a result, I saw our whole family sticking to the big door, peeking through the cracks to watch the excitement, and even my little niece was no exception. My dad finally revealed a knowing smile and said, My daughter has finally grown up. My brother also said, Your sister-in-law's job is meant for you. If we easily let outsiders take advantage, your sister-in-law wouldn't have agreed to move to the city with me in the first place. I said, Brother, I understand your and sister-in-law's intentions, and I will cherish it well. Chapter 4. Lying on the Kong. I couldn't help but think of the events from my past life. In my past life, my heart and eyes were filled with Anthony when he suggested that working was too tiring and wanted to teach at the village primary school. I didn't hesitate to give him my sister-in-law's job. Of course, my family wouldn't agree, but I couldn't help but cry, throw a tantrum, and threaten to hang myself. On the third day of my hunger strike, my dad finally agreed to my request and let Anthony take my sister-in-law's job. It was also because Anthony was teaching at school that he had more time to study the knowledge from books in his spare time. When the news of the resumption of the college entrance examination came, he had ample time to review. Otherwise, with so many people participating in the college entrance examination, why should Anthony stand out? Since I have the chance to live again, I should consider myself more. Anthony once said something right in his past life. He said that one should have aspirations and strive for progress. Relying on a man is no skill. I want to improve myself and become a person with aspirations. A man is merely an embellishment. If fate brings him, then fine. If not, I can live on my own. And that's quite good too. It is now 1976, and there are still several years until the reform and opening up. Moreover, when the reform and opening up policy was first introduced, the implementation of policies in various regions was not particularly clear. Here, we could only start our own businesses after 1982. With 6 years to go, I couldn't just farm and wait. The most significant turning point in my future, the one closest to me, was the restoration of the college entrance examination in 1977, with a year left. As long as I study hard, even if I don't get into university, graduating from a vocational college or a technical school will still lead to a job placement, which is definitely better than toiling in the fields. I decided to take action. I asked my brother to help me borrow high school textbooks from a co-worker's sister and started self-studying high school subjects. I have already taken over my sister-in-law's job and started teaching at the village primary school. Our principal saw me studying high school subjects during my free time and kept praising my ambition. Hearing that made me feel so ashamed. I am ambitious, but I actually have other motives. Our principal graduated from high school, and he told me that if I have any questions, I can ask him anytime. I took him seriously. Mainly because there was no one else around me to ask. My brother and sister-in-law are both like me, with only a junior high school education. Even so, among us, we are considered well-educated in the village. Many people in the village only graduated from elementary school. My dad, with just a junior high education, couldn't even become the village accountant. But our principal graduated many years ago, and while he can still teach me some basic knowledge, beyond that, he is powerless. The late emperor's venture was cut short before it could even begin. Isn't that just me? On my way home from school, I was thinking about this matter the whole time, to the point that my head was spinning. The result is that when one thing goes wrong, everything goes wrong. I even ran into Anthony and Miriam on the way. Anthony was afraid that I would really ask the village chief to deduct his work points, so he returned the money to me. From what I know about him, that money was probably borrowed from someone, but it doesn't matter anymore. My relationship with him is settled. As long as he pays me back, I don't care where the money came from. In this lifetime, I intend to keep my distance from Anthony. Previously, the things I did to him went unnoticed by anyone in the village except for my family, so there are no rumors about me and Anthony in the village now. Anthony always said in his past life that Miriam refused his confession because she listened to rumors. But now it seems that this is not the case at all. Miriam's attitude towards Anthony can be described in modern terms as catch and release. Before Miriam wanted to settle down, all the fish in the pond weren't even considered pets. Anthony still helps Miriam with the work. Just like in a past life, he can only do so much work in total. Most of it is still helping Miriam with her tasks, so his work points must be few. With fewer work points, there will be less food. Before, I was the one supporting Anthony, but now that my support is gone, Anthony has become so thin he looks like he might fall over. But it seems his spiritual nourishment is quite abundant, as Miriam has been cheering him on from the sidelines. Anthony, you are really capable. Anthony, what would I do without you? Anthony, I will definitely repay you well. Repay? Please. Miriam easily abandoned Anthony once she had a better option. Not only did she abandon him, but she also placed the blame on me, causing me to be blamed by Anthony for so many years. In this lifetime, I won't get involved. I'll just watch to see if they can truly lock themselves together. I was enjoying the performance of Anthony and Miriam when a figure suddenly intruded into my line of sight. He is also an educated youth, named Peter, and he is truly a pretty boy. He has been in the countryside for 2 years. Yet he never seems to get tanned. Of course, skin color isn't the main thing. The most important part is that Peter also got into university in his previous life, and he was admitted to Huaqing University with very high scores. If he could score that high, then the knowledge from high school must be a piece of cake for him. Although I am not familiar with Peter, we have hardly exchanged a few words in this life and the last. But for the sake of my beautiful future, what does that matter? As long as I have enough thick skin, then nothing can defeat me. Chapter 5. I saw Peter finishing his work and heading back, so I hurriedly chased after him. I was still pondering how to start the conversation when Peter suddenly turned around, and I almost bumped into him. He asked, "Are you looking for me for something?" Looking at a handsome face so close to me, I forgot almost all the excuses I had prepared along the way. I quickly lowered my head, avoiding his gaze. "Yes, I have something to discuss. I am currently teaching at the village primary school, but I only have a junior high school education. I feel it is my duty to improve my professional skills, so I self-studied the high school textbooks. But there are many parts one don't understand. I heard you are a high school student. Could you tutor me?" After finishing my words, I finally dared to look up. Peter had been sizing me up for a long time, not saying a word, until Anthony and Miriam passed by us, and Anthony kept looking in our direction for quite a while, but I didn't even glance at him. Peter said, "Anthony is also a high school student. Why don't you go find him?" I said, "There are differences even among high school students. The principal of our village primary school is still a high school student, but he has forgotten a lot of knowledge. I see you often reading books, so your knowledge must be intact." Peter said, "Considering your concern for the children, I can tutor you." Afraid that Peter would change his mind, I hurriedly arranged the subsequent times. I said, "There are too many people at the educated youth point. It's inconvenient. Why don't you come to my house every evening to tutor me?" Having spent a long time in modern society, I didn't feel there was anything wrong with what I said. Is it really such a natural thing for a male tutor to go to a female student's home to give lessons? But in this era, saying such things is absolutely shocking. It wasn't until I saw Peter's flushed face that I realized it was inappropriate. Just as I was about to explain, Peter replied with okay. He and I had agreed to meet after dinner, but then he ran away as if escaping. Well, although the process was a bit bumpy, the outcome was still somewhat as expected. Anyway, from that day on, I began my days of teaching during the day and attending classes at night. My dad was worried that it wouldn't look good for a man and a woman to be alone together, so he attended a few days of classes under the pretense of wanting to learn as well, but then he gave up. However, my dad gave up on attending the classes, not on letting me and Peter be alone together, so he came up with a plan. He had my sister-in-law come home to stay for a while to accompany me in studying. Poor my sister-in-law had no choice but to comply and returned home obediently. Although my sister-in-law didn't seem very willing, my dad's decision inspired me. My sister-in-law could study for university entrance exams with me. In the previous life, my sister-in-law had been doing odd jobs after moving to the city. By the early 1990s, my brother had lost his job again, and their family's life was not easy. If my sister-in-law could get into university and study education, that iron rice bowl could last a long time. Graduates from teacher training colleges are assigned to schools in the city as teachers. That school is not the same as a village primary school. It has a formal position and can help resolve hukou issues. The difference between urban and rural hukou would only gradually narrow after the year 2000. At that time, urban hukou was quite desirable. Having come to terms with this matter, I began to urge my sister-in-law to start studying. Peter doesn't need my urging. He is already at the level of hucking and has little room for improvement. Of course, I wouldn't tell my sister-in-law about the restoration of the college entrance examination. If I said it now, everyone would think I was crazy. But to persuade my sister-in-law, I found another excuse. I told my sister-in-law, "I heard a rumor that the textile factory is recruiting a batch of formal workers. There are no restrictions on hukou, and a junior high school education is sufficient to apply. However, an exam is required, so we must focus on improving our academic scores." My sister-in-law knew that I had a friend who worked in a textile factory, so she firmly believed this little piece of news and studied particularly hard. In the midst of her diligent studies, spring of 1977 arrived. Chapter 6. My sister-in-law had already returned to the city to take care of my brother. However, she never let go of her studies, because at the end of last year, the textile factory indeed announced that they were hiring 10 workers. My sister-in-law applied, but she did not pass the exam. Of course, she couldn't pass. The hiring quotas at the textile factory had long been predetermined. Those few candidates had already memorized the answers. Don't mention my sister-in-law. Even if Peter went to Huaqing University as a reserve, he wouldn't pass the exam. But my sister-in-law doesn't know about this. She thinks it's because she didn't study hard enough. As long as she studies hard, she will definitely pass the next time such an opportunity arises. The more I interact with Peter, the closer his relationship with my family has become. My parents always invite him to our house for dinner, and Peter always brings some meat and pastries as gifts. My dad no longer mentions the fact that I am alone in a room with Peter, because he would love to keep Peter around as his son-in-law. My mom quietly asked me, "What do you think of that Peter-educated youth?" I said, "Mom, have you ever seen a city person wanting to marry a country girl?" My mom said, "Why not? The village chief's daughter married an educated youth from the city, didn't she?" I said, "Yes." Later that educated youth used the village chief's connections to get into a workers' peasant soldiers' university, and after returning to the city, he never came back. My mom said, "Then why were you so warm towards Anthony before?" I said, "So later I just figured it out. But I think it's really not good for us to trouble Peter like this. I see the mountain goods are about to come down. Let's prepare some more mountain goods for him to send back to his family. It's also a gesture from our family." My mom said, "You decide for yourself. I am now a teacher, and I have some of my own income." I exchanged some mountain goods with the villagers using money, and after organizing them, I prepared to send them to Peter. If I let Peter take them directly when he comes to my house, I'm afraid he would feel embarrassed. So I planned to deliver them to the educated youth point. I would just drop off the things and leave. On the path to the educated youth point, in a small grove, I unexpectedly saw Anthony and Miriam there, pulling and tugging at each other. "Miriam, who were you writing to just now? I saw you say he is your beloved. If that's the case, then what do I mean to you in your heart?" "Anthony, he is just a memory I keep hidden in my heart. You are the one who treats me well now, but I am not worthy of you. You deserve someone better. Just being able to silently watch you by your side makes me feel very content." "Miriam, please don't say that. You are my destined person. We are fated to be entangled for a lifetime." Oh my, these sour words make my skin crawl. At this time, the romantic dramas hadn't reached the mainland yet. Otherwise, I would have thought these two were acting in a TV show. I hurried my pace towards the educated youth point. Just as I was about to arrive, I was suddenly pulled back from behind. I turned my head and saw it was Anthony. I glanced behind him again, and there was only him. Miriam hadn't followed. Anthony proudly said to me, "You've reflected for half a year, and finally figured it out? I won't easily forgive you. Are you here to deliver mountain goods to me? At least you have a bit of conscience, knowing that you shouldn't come empty-handed when admitting your mistakes." In the past, the mountain goods I sent home, my family all said they liked to eat. My elder sister-in-law is pregnant this year, and my mother specifically instructed me to send more mountain goods back home. As he spoke, he tried to take the things from my hands, but I sidestepped to avoid him. I said, "Anthony, are you sick or something? What your family wants to eat, you can buy it yourself. Why are you stealing my things? What does your sister-in-law's pregnancy have to do with me? It's not my child she's carrying." Anthony angrily said, "Bianca, I am giving you a way out. I am giving you face, so you should accept it. Don't be so arrogant." I said, "I want to say this to you too. Do I even know who you are? My dad never spoke to me like that. Who do you think you are?" Anthony said, "Bianca, don't deny it. You brought such a large package to the educated youth point. If it wasn't meant for me, who else could it be for?" "It's for me." I looked in the direction of the voice, and Peter came out. Chapter 7. Peter took the things from my hands and said to me, "Just say it's no trouble. Your elder brother is still so polite, insisting that you bring me the things," Peter said while giving me a wink. I knew Peter misunderstood. He must have thought I was being harassed by Anthony and wanted to come to my rescue, but I didn't explain. Instead, I just handed him the things. I said, "My elder brother said thank you for tutoring me and my sister-in-law. We don't have much good stuff in our countryside. Just these mountain goods that you don't often see in the city. When autumn comes, there will be more varieties, and I'll bring you some then. I won't disturb you. I'll head back first." So I left under Anthony's shocked gaze. I wasn't worried that Anthony would cause trouble for Peter. With Anthony's frail, malnourished frame, he couldn't possibly compete with the well-fed Peter. Peter came to find me afterwards, saying he wanted to return something to me. I told him that if he was being polite with me, it meant he didn't consider me a friend, and from then on, I would ignore him. Only then did he give up, but not long after, Peter still returned a gift to me, one that I found hard to refuse, a complete set of self-study series on mathematics, physics, and chemistry. Although I never took the college entrance examination, I have heard people mention that the knowledge in this series is very helpful for those taking the exam. Ever since I came back to prepare for the college entrance examination, I have been searching for this set of books everywhere, but unfortunately, I have not been able to find it. Peter, it was really thoughtful of you to give me this gift. And so, I worked and studied step by step. And finally, the time came to October 21st, 1977. On this day, the People's Daily published the news of major reforms in higher education admissions, marking the official restoration of the college entrance examination. This year's college entrance examination was scheduled for 2 months later. The villagers did not understand what the restoration of the college entrance examination meant, but for those at the educated youth point, this news was like pouring a bowl of water into a boiling pot of oil, igniting the educated youth into a fervor, because this was the only visible way for them to return to the city. The people at the educated youth point, regardless of their usual academic performance, were all eager to try. This naturally included Anthony, but I didn't expect Anthony to have such a big face. He actually came to find me with Miriam, wanting to borrow my high school textbooks. Anthony said, "Bianca, I know you have been studying high school material. You must have the high school textbooks. Please lend them to me. I will return them to you after my exam." I was almost laughing out of anger. "Anthony, you have such a big face. If I lend you the books, what will I use to review?" Anthony said, "Your foundation is so poor that even if you study, you definitely won't pass. Don't waste resources. I'll return the textbooks to you once I'm done using them, and it will be the same for you next year." I said, "Dream on. Not only will I not lend you the books now, but even if I get accepted this year, I still won't lend you the books for next year." Miriam said, "Bianca, we are all from Qingshui village. Shouldn't we be united and friendly? How can you be so selfish?" I said, "Who do you think you are? Why should I be united and friendly with you? You all better get lost early. Don't be an eyesore in front of me." Miriam wanted to say more, but I turned around, went back inside, and threw out a basin of foot-washing water, which finally stopped her from speaking. Seeing my firm attitude, Anthony and Miriam left in a dejected manner. In my previous life, after learning about the resumption of the college entrance examination, I searched everywhere for review materials for Anthony, but those who had study materials were all frantically reviewing at that time. Who would be willing to lend out their books? I still had my brother ask his friend for help. Every day, while they were resting, I would go to their house to copy books, writing down the content from the books for Anthony to see. Without my help in this life, I want to see how many points he can score. Chapter 8. I successfully completed the registration and examination for the college entrance examination, and then I eagerly awaited the arrival of the admission notice. Among the people I know, my sister-in-law's admission notice was the first to arrive. She didn't want to go too far from home, so she only applied to a normal university in the provincial capital. The admission notices for Peter and me arrived at the same time. We both got accepted into Huaqing University. At the moment I received the admission notice, I clearly realized that my fate had been rewritten, and I was heading down a completely different path than in my previous life. My future is bright and full of hope. At this moment, I even feel a sense of relief regarding the experiences of my past life. After all, if it weren't for those wrong paths, I wouldn't be who I am today. After learning that I was accepted into Huaqing University, my dad even made a special trip to our ancestral grave to pay respects and thank our ancestors for their blessings. Indeed, with 2 college students in our family, my dad could boast to the villagers that we come from a scholarly family, and no one would dare to refute him. At the educated youth point, most people's destinies follow the same path as in their previous lives, with the only 2 exceptions being Anthony and Miriam. Miriam was admitted to an undergraduate program in her previous life, but in this life, she only got into a vocational college. It seems that the study materials I painstakingly copied in my previous life were inevitably shared with Anthony. Otherwise, it would be impossible to explain the changes in her academic performance over these 2 lives. Anthony, as expected, failed to make the cut. Anthony's academic foundation was originally weak. In the last life, I created opportunities for him, allowing him ample time and study materials to review, which enabled him to get into university. In this life, since I am not involved, he naturally has to return to his original path. As Miriam is about to leave Qingshui village to go to school, there is certainly no need to continue pretending with Anthony. Anthony has already lost his value of utility. Miriam's change in attitude made Anthony's already fragile emotions even more volatile. I have seen several times Anthony chasing after Miriam while she ran away from him. However, very soon, Anthony and Miriam made up again. Because Anthony said he also got into university, it was just that the admission notice arrived a bit late. When he went to the post office today, he had already picked up the admission notice on the way. Anthony's mental state seemed to be invigorated, as if he had been given a shot of adrenaline. When things seem unusual, there must be something amiss. My intuition tells me that something is not right. Not to mention Anthony, whether he currently has the ability to get into university. Even if he does, he must be itching to hold up his admission letter to those who previously mocked him. Instead of hiding it like he does now, every time someone brings up wanting to see the admission notice, he finds an excuse to avoid it. But Anthony has no need to lie, because if the time comes and he doesn't report to school, his lie will be quickly exposed. By that time, he won't just be envied by the villagers, he will become a topic of gossip over tea and meals. I thought for a moment, what if Anthony wants to enroll? What other feasible options are there? I quickly came up with an idea. For Anthony, the easiest way would be to take someone else's spot at university. And we have a ready candidate here, Peter. In this day and age, travel is still slow, and information is not very advanced. If Anthony stole Peter's admission notice and introduction letter, it would be quite easy for him to impersonate Peter and attend university. After that, even if Peter went to the school, there are many ways for Anthony to turn the tables. Moreover, there is a way to solve this once and for all, which is for Anthony to find an opportunity to silence Peter permanently, and then this matter would become completely undetectable. As someone who knows both Anthony and Peter, I have a high probability of being on his list of targets. Just thinking about it sends chills down my spine. Better safe than sorry. I found Peter and expressed my suspicions to him, and I offered to help him keep his acceptance letter safe. Peter agreed readily. I said, "Aren't you afraid that I might take your acceptance letter and give it to someone else?" Peter firmly said, "You won't." I patted my chest and assured him, "You have good judgment, just rest assured, I will definitely keep this admission notice safe. As long as I am here, the notice is here." Before I finished my sentence, Peter covered my mouth with his hand. He said, "Don't say anything unlucky." Alright, I was a bit carried away, but my life is more important. Chapter 9. It turned out that I still understood Anthony very well. Not long after, a theft occurred at the Educated Youth Point, and Peter's admission notice went missing. On the day of the theft, Anthony packed his things and left early, claiming he was homesick. I asked in confusion Peter, "The admission notice is still in my hand. Anthony didn't steal anything, why did he run away?" Peter said, "I drew a fake one. Anthony thought he had succeeded, so he got scared and ran away." I said, "He wouldn't be fooled by the fake, would he?" Peter said, "No, the admission notice I drew is particularly fake, there are even typos on it. Not to mention the teachers at the school, even the security guards at the school could tell at a glance that something was wrong." With Anthony running away, the other educated youth who were admitted to university also left early one after another. They all said they wanted to go home and take a look first, except for Peter. Peter said, "My home is in Jing City. Once school starts, I will have plenty of opportunities to see them, so I'm not in a hurry to leave." I said, "But you have to go back sooner or later, right? What's the difference between leaving now and leaving when school starts?" Peter said, "The things I need to take are different." At first, I didn't understand what Peter meant, but later I realized he was referring to that thing, which was me. He is afraid that it would be dangerous for me to travel alone. Although I am grateful for his thoughtfulness and good intentions, I still indignantly said, "I am a person, not an object." He retorted, "Oh? Aren't you a thing?" I said, "Of course not." Sigh, "Peter, are you taking advantage of me by saying I'm not a thing?" I reached out to hit him, but when I saw Peter smiling at me indulgently, my face instantly turned red. I looked into Peter's sparkling eyes and felt they were even more dazzling than the sun. I felt that the atmosphere was a bit ambiguous now, especially since I had just recently extricated myself from a 40-year-long unrequited love, and I wasn't ready to start a new relationship yet. So I hurriedly changed the subject, saying that my dad had something to attend to and that I needed to get home quickly, and then I rushed away. Soon it will be time for school to start. I carried a big bag and a small bag, and together with Peter, we boarded the train to Jing City. Both Peter and I applied to the physics department. In my previous life, I really enjoyed taking apart the appliances at home. After disassembling them, I could reassemble them just as they were. I don't understand the principles behind this, but I've always had a natural inclination to tinker with these things. In this lifetime, I started learning from professional knowledge, and with over 40 years of perspective and experience compared to others, I believe I can certainly help our country accelerate the process of technological development. Studying this major can be considered a way to serve my country. Peter and I only arrived on the last day of registration. During registration, the teacher in charge looked at our admission notices back and forth several times. I asked, "Teacher, does this need to be checked so carefully?" The teacher said, "You don't know, a few days ago someone came to register with a fake admission notice. Coincidentally, the name on that admission notice sounds quite similar to your friend's. That person is named Chini Feng. That admission notice was incredibly fake." I asked the person who came to register some details, and he was very evasive. When I told him his admission notice was fake, he initially refused to admit it. Only after I pointed out several mistakes on the admission notice did he hurriedly run away. The scammers these days are really something, making such a fake admission notice. Do they think everyone else is a fool? Peter smiled and said, "You can't really blame the scammers. After all, they've never seen what a real admission notice looks like." After successfully registering, I devoted myself wholeheartedly to my studies and felt the days passing by quickly. I am forgetting the memories of my previous life, over 60 years, so quickly that I might forget the existence of Anthony and Miriam. But Anthony didn't give me that chance. I unexpectedly ran into him again, right in our university campus. Chapter 10. That noon, after finishing our meal at the cafeteria, Peter and I came out to find a crowd gathered at the entrance. Upon closer inspection, I realized that I knew all three individuals at the center of the crowd. One of them was my classmate Mario, and the other two were Anthony and Miriam. Although Miriam's school is also in Jing City, it takes at least 2 hours by bus to get here from her school. How could she possibly be here? But when I saw Miriam and Mario holding hands, I seemed to understand what kind of relationship these three people had. I also understood why Miriam and Anthony would appear at our school. Mario was also an educated youth who went to the countryside. He was much older than us. But I heard that his family was well off, and he often spent money lavishly. A wealthy, high-achieving student and a poor kid who didn't get into university, Miriam quickly made her choice. Clearly, Anthony was the one who got left behind. To see the excitement, I deliberately moved a little closer. Anthony said, "Miriam, after all these years together, how could you easily fall for someone else?" Mario said, "You should just shut up, Miriam already told me. She has never had any relationship with you. For all these years, it has always been you pestering her, and she has never agreed to anything with you." Anthony said, "Miriam, how can you lie? We spent 3 years together in the countryside, side by side. How can you say that our bond is just me pestering you?" Miriam said, "Anthony, if you hadn't told me you got into Huaqing University, how would I have agreed to be with you? So what's the result? You came here with a fake admission notice. You really have no shame. Moreover, the name on the admission notice is different from yours. How can you still have the nerve to tell me that name is yours? Whose name and nickname are so different that they don't even share a surname? Not only did you come here to embarrass yourself, but you also dragged me along to share in your humiliation. But I also want to thank you. If it weren't for accompanying you here to register, I wouldn't have had the chance to meet Mario." Anthony said, "Miriam, I admit that I told a white lie because I was afraid you would look down on me for not getting into college. But my feelings for you are genuine. If you give me another chance, I will definitely be able to pass this year's college entrance examination." Miriam said, "Anthony, it's already April, and this year's college entrance examination is in July. You, who just failed, haven't studied at all these past few months. What makes you think you can pass this time?" "I can pass. Can you get into Huaqing University?" "You can't compete with Mario. Just go away and stop bothering me." Anthony said, "No, Miriam, you can't treat me like this." As he spoke, Anthony reached out to grab Miriam, but was pushed away by Mario. After that, Anthony and Mario entered into a fighting mode, while Miriam was crying and trying to mediate. Anthony and Mario fought for a long time. More precisely, it was Anthony who was beaten by Mario for a long time. Given Anthony's current small stature, even I would struggle to beat him. Anthony and Mario got into a fight on campus and were soon taken away by the school security personnel. Mario was fighting, which could be understood to some extent, but it ultimately had a negative impact. He was eventually given a serious reprimand. Since Anthony was not a student at our school, he was handed over to the public security department by the security office. Because Anthony S. Huku is not here, he cannot provide the introduction letter. He was identified as a vagrant and needs to be sent back to his Huku location, which is Qingshui village. Returning to Qingshui village, Anthony began preparing for the college entrance examination. Unsurprisingly, Anthony failed again. When I returned home for summer vacation, I heard people in the village discussing that Anthony had gone mad. Chapter 11. I hurried home and asked my mom about what was going on with Anthony. My mom said, Anthony has failed the exam twice in a row and has already lost his mind. This year, 2 more people from the Educated Youth Point are going to university, and Anthony insisted on stealing their admission notice, claiming that it should belong to him. He said he actually got into university, but his notice was stolen, and it was one of those 2 educated youth who did it. This year's exam is different from yours last year. Last year you didn't know how many points you scored and were just waiting for the admission notice. But this year, the exam results were announced. Didn't those 2 educated youth know how many points they scored? Moreover, they also saw Anthony's score. With that score, how could he possibly get into university? They were Anthony so slandered by such baseless accusations that they were unwilling to accept it. So they got into a fight with Anthony. At that moment, they happened to be standing by the riverbank, and while they were fighting, Anthony was pushed into the river. The person who pushed him, the educated youth, immediately jumped into the river to save him, but after Anthony was rescued, he was not quite himself anymore. He insisted that something was wrong, claiming that he should have been the one to get into university. He also said that you were just an uneducated village girl, and that you had been pestering him relentlessly until you finally used all means to marry him. Isn't this just nonsense? Everyone in the village knows you got into university. The children from the village primary school you taught also speak highly of you, saying you are a knowledgeable and good teacher. As for the claim that you were pestering him, no one believes that either. Before, no one outside our family knew about your situation. At that time Anthony was evasive and unwilling to admit your relationship, but it seems you have turned misfortune into fortune now. However, even if no one else believes it, our family can't just sit idly by. Your brother took a few of your cousins to the Educated Youth Point. They gave Anthony a good talking to, telling him not to speak carelessly. After listening to my mom, I realized that Anthony has also regained memories from his previous life, but it doesn't matter. Anthony's life trajectory has already changed. Moreover, his undying heart for Miriam and the blood-sucking family of Anthony will give him another lesson. Compared to the clueless Anthony, it's better that he has regained his memories. This will also let him know what he has lost in this life without me. While I was washing clothes by the river, I finally encountered Anthony once again. Anthony looked even thinner. He seemed like a malevolent ghost that had just crawled out of the underworld. Gloomy and reclusive, Anthony asked me coldly, Bianca, you've been reborn too, haven't you? Otherwise, how could a culturally ignorant village girl like you get into university? You just got lucky, coming back a bit earlier than me. Otherwise, the one who should have proudly entered Huaqing University would be me. I said, Anthony, what do you have to be proud of? The fact that I managed to get into university in this lifetime only proves that your ability to get into university in your past life was all thanks to me, right? Without me, you wouldn't be doing any better than the previous version of me. The fact that you have failed the college entrance examination for 2 consecutive years speaks volumes, doesn't it? Anthony said, Humph, with that brain of yours, having been a housewife for over 40 years, the best you can think of is going to university and getting a job. In the future society, there are plenty of things you can do without a degree. Many of the billionaires on the rich list only have a primary school education. Going to university would waste 4 years of my time. I don't want to do that. I want to start a business. This is an era where even a pig can take off if it stands in the right wind, let alone someone like me with memories from 2 lifetimes. I want to become someone on the rich list. I want those educated people to work under me, begging for my favor. Bianca, what you have lost in this life is a better version of me. I want you to know that without your burden, I will only become better and better. I said to Anthony, so what if that's the case? Even if you really achieve great success, you cannot change the fact that you were cheated on by Miriam. Even if Miriam comes back to her senses, you are merely picking up a pair of worn-out shoes. What is there for you to be proud of? What I said really struck a nerve with Anthony. He angrily charged towards me, wanting to push me into the river. I was waiting for this moment, fully prepared. When Anthony came rushing at me, I sidestepped and dodged. As a result, Anthony once again fell dramatically into the river. The difference this time was that no one immediately jumped in to save him. Chapter 12. Actually, the water here where I do laundry is quite shallow, only reaching up to a person's thighs. As long as Anthony tries to stand up, he would succeed immediately. However, Anthony has had one experience of falling into the river, and he confuses these 2 memories, thinking that the water here is also very deep. He struggled in the river for a long time before being pulled up by a few villagers passing by. I heard everyone discussing that Anthony was indeed crazy, not even knowing to stand up and walk to the shore in such shallow water. How pitiful. I heard that Anthony was in the water this time and had a fever for 3 whole days. The villagers are tough. When they get sick, they rarely go to the hospital and rely on their own strength to endure. By the time the villagers noticed something was wrong with Anthony and took him to the hospital, his persistent high fever had caused damage to the auditory nerve in his left ear, and he could no longer hear anything with that ear. This reminds me of a time when Anthony had a high fever, and I had to beg my brother to take him to the hospital. Because of this, my brother ended up losing a day's work. However, after the incident, Anthony not only didn't appreciate my help, but also said I was meddling. He said that even if I hadn't asked my brother to take him to the hospital, he would have been fine after a day or two of fever. Since I took it upon myself to take him to the hospital, I should be the one to cover the medical expenses. Isn't this just karma? This time, he finally got the chance to experience what the consequences of not going to the hospital with a persistent high fever would be. Regarding Anthony being deaf, I just want to say that what you owe me will be repaid little by little. This is just the beginning. With one ear deaf and often speaking nonsense, Anthony is like the old saying, a blessing in disguise. He has obtained a quota for returning to the city this year. The remaining educated youth at the educated youth point are afraid that Anthony might suddenly go mad one day and do something drastic. So everyone unanimously agreed to give this quota for returning to the city to Anthony. In fact, in October of this year, the government will introduce a policy allowing all educated youth to return to the city. But in his previous life, Anthony had it too easy and completely forgot about this matter. He still thought of himself as the chosen one, favored by all. At this moment, Anthony was still full of ambition, believing he was about to develop a great career. Before he left, he boasted to the villagers about his bright future, saying he would soon make a fortune. He would start a company, live in an apartment, earn a lot of money, and become someone important. After hearing this, the villagers became even more convinced that Anthony had gone mad. For 2 years after Anthony left, I hadn't heard any news about him, but Miriam still appeared in my life quite frequently. She often comes to our school to find Mario, and these two are inseparable on campus all day long. The time these two spend together is second only to the pair of stone lions at the school gate among the recognized couples. Just as their love story was about to become a campus romance legend, Mario's wife appeared with their child. That's right, Mario is actually married. While in the countryside, Mario used his sweet talk to marry a girl from the village. To be precise, he married a widow. Although that widow is from the village, her late husband died in the line of duty, so she has some pension money. Back when Mario was an educated youth, he also struggled to have enough to eat every day, living a hard life. He sought to marry her because she was wealthy. Later on, Mario got into university, and it turned into a cliched story of Qin Shimi and Qin Xianglian. In the village, people only recognize the wedding banquet and do not go to get a marriage certificate. So, Mario never mentioned it, and no one could tell from his records that he had been married. After Mario went to university, his hukou was transferred out of the village. Before he left, he even said that expenses outside were high and tricked his wife out of all her money. Mario's wife waited in vain for Mario for several years without seeing him return. So, in the end, she gritted her teeth and brought the children to find him at school. When Mario's wife just arrived at the school, she saw Mario in a romantic relationship with Miriam. Seeing her man cheating right under her nose, who could endure it? Thus, Mario's wife exploded. She rushed up and started tearing at Miriam, shouting while hitting her that Miriam was shameless, a vixen who seduced other people's husbands. Mario, of course, he had to step in, but the enraged woman was incredibly strong. Mario and Miriam were outnumbered 2-1 and were beaten black and blue by the woman. In the end, it was still the school security office that came to break up the fight. This is Mario's second fight since he entered the school. Mario, from the last time he was the aggressor to this time being the victim. It seems like he has suffered a greater injury. However, in reality, his charges this time are far more serious than last time. Engaging in extramarital affairs is a serious matter that, even in the year 1980, and even 20 years later, remains unforgivable. Moreover, after this incident, Mario's wife has come to understand the situation. If she swallows her pride for Mario's future, what awaits her will only be Mario's repeated betrayals. Between a successful man who does not want her and a failed man who can only survive by depending on her, she chose the latter. Because Mario's mistakes were quite serious, and with his wife's strong demands, Mario was ultimately expelled from the school. After all, in this day and age, the country recognizes common law marriage. Miriam has always insisted that she was deceived by Mario. She did not know that Mario was already married, and she is also a victim. Therefore, Miriam ultimately did not face any punishment. As for whether Miriam was intentionally deceived by Mario or if she was willfully ignorant, that remains unknown. Mario was taken back to the countryside by his wife, and Miriam was forced to experience heartbreak. However, although Miriam has had an ambiguous relationship with Mario over the years, she has never given up on raising fish in her pond. Just as she was picking and choosing, contemplating which fish to select, Anthony appeared. Chapter 13. After 3 years of struggles, Anthony indeed made some small profits. After all, this is an era where even a pig can take flight if it stands in the wind. However, the current policies have not been fully relaxed, and coupled with the fact that Anthony does not have much startup capital, he only earned a little money. After being dumped by Miriam, Anthony has always been troubled by this matter. At that time, Miriam said it was because Anthony was not ambitious that she would fall for someone else. When Anthony achieved certain accomplishments, he immediately thought of Miriam, who lingered in his heart. In order to save face and showcase his advantages, Anthony was particularly generous in front of Miriam. The poor student Miriam was naturally attracted to Anthony and returned to his embrace. I know all of this because I unexpectedly became neighbors with Anthony. It is now 1981. I have completed university and have been assigned to work at a research institute. Peter chose not to work directly but instead pursued graduate studies at the same school. Intending to continue his education, Peter and I officially confirmed our romantic relationship in our junior year. However, because Peter was still in school, we didn't plan to get married for the time being and decided to wait until he graduated. The organization I work for has dormitories, but the dormitory has 8 people sharing one room, and the living conditions are not very good. Coincidentally, Peter's family had an empty house that was originally intended for us to use as our marital home. Peter directly tidied up the house and let me stay there first. It was there that I encountered Anthony and Miriam once again. Anthony, over the years, he has gained money and his physique has become somewhat stronger, but his mental state doesn't seem to have improved much. He still looks like a small man who has found success. Seeing me and Peter being affectionate, Anthony contemptuously said to me, "Bianca, you've lived a whole life already. How could you end up choosing a poor guy in the end? Even if you don't have the brains or the ability to make big money, there are so many people on the rich list. You could pick anyone, take advantage of the fact that they haven't made their fortune yet, and seize the opportunity to marry early, which would be better than marrying Peter later on. Peter is just a bookworm. What future can he possibly have? In another 10 years, all these factories will close down, and by then, you will all be laid off." These people now feel like they are holding on to an iron rice bowl, looking down on others. In a few years, even crying will have no place to go. I said, "Anthony, who among us is really not using their brain?" In my past life, I trapped myself in marriage, thinking every day about the mundane matters of life, calculating those trivial little things. I had no income and could only ask you for money. Under your oppression, I ultimately became a resentful woman. If I could start over, why would I choose to depend on a man? I want to be myself and bloom like a flower. You walk your own path, and I'll walk my own. You have no right to criticize my choices. If you have that much time, you might as well take care of your family and keep them quiet, so they argue less. Anthony hasn't been favored at home for years, but after he started making money, his family quickly came back to him, just like in a past life. And Anthony, just like in a previous life, accepted all the demands from his family without question. Anthony tried to showcase his uniqueness in this way, wanting his family to feel that he was much stronger than his elder brother and younger brother, hoping that his parents would regret their favoritism towards him over the years. So whenever Anthony achieved a small success, he couldn't help but go home to show off, and he would even exaggerate his accomplishments. Not to mention, he must have some idea of what the future housing prices in Jing City will be. The fact that he is still renting instead of buying a house means that his displayed financial capability needs to be reassessed. However, even so, after his family heard that he had a house to live in here, they directly moved over. Anthony now lives in the yard next to mine, where his parents and younger siblings all reside together. As for his elder brother and sister-in-law, of course, they have taken over their original home. I had quite a bit of contact with Anthony and his family in the past. They are not easy people to get along with. A domineering father, a sarcastic mother, a shameless brother and sister-in-law, calculating younger siblings, and him, who seeks fame and recognition. Such a bizarre family. Apart from the love-struck version of myself from the previous life, no one could tolerate it, let alone that Miriam who always needs to be coddled. I can hear the noisy sounds coming from next door every day, and today is no exception. Chapter 14. Anthony's mother's voice came through. You are going to marry into our Lee family as a daughter-in-law. How can you not even cook a meal properly? Miriam said, I'm not married to Anthony yet, so I'm not considered part of your family. Why should I take care of all of you? Your real daughter-in-law is right there. Why don't you ask her? Anthony, his mother scolded. You little slut. You've learned to talk back now. Even though you haven't married into the family, you and my son have already shared a bed. What do you have to say for yourself? Miriam hadn't spoken yet. Anthony quickly interrupted. Mom, keep your voice down. Don't let the neighbors hear. Is it acceptable to say that you got together without being married? Do you want your son to go to jail? If she doesn't listen, can't I say something about her? You hurry up and find me another daughter-in-law. You're a big boss now. How can you not marry a university student? Don't think I don't know. She's just a vocational college student, not a bachelor's degree. If you ask me, that girl next door is pretty good. She looks blessed and has a higher education. You should kick this little vixen out and marry the one next door. The smell that wafts over when she cooks is so fragrant. You can tell she's someone who knows how to cook. Hearing this made me, who was quietly eavesdropping from behind a wall, feel a chill run down my spine. I was just here to watch the excitement. How did I get dragged into the gossip circle? But it really is interesting. In the last life, Anthony's mother often said that I looked mean, and she claimed that she would end up bedridden because of me. In this life, my appearance in her words has turned into a blessing. It shouldn't be that her eyes have a problem. She simply wants to indiscriminately attack Anthony as every partner. However, Anthony's mother said this, but it caused a big mess. Since I got into university, I have become the girl that Miriam hates the most because she thinks I stole the spotlight that originally belonged to her. Miriam felt that if there wasn't a comparison with me, a university student from Hucking, then her diploma from a vocational college would receive more praise from the villagers. I also don't know what use this praise has to make her so obsessed. If Anthony's Achilles heel is someone saying in front of him that Miriam isn't interested in him, then Miriam's Achilles heel is someone telling her that she can't compare to me. So Miriam exploded. She flipped over the table they were eating at and shouted, You old hypocrite. If you can't speak properly, just donate your mouth. It doesn't matter whether I'm a vocational college student or an undergraduate. That's still much better than your son, who is just a high school student. Right now, I'm holding a stable government job, sitting in an office. As for your son, he's nothing but a speculator and a second-rate dealer. If it weren't for the fact that he spends money generously and treats me well, do you think I would be with him? Anthony, I'm laying it out clearly today. If you don't get rid of all those people who are freeloading in your house, then we are done for good. Anthony's mother muttered. If you leave, then leave. Without you, my son will definitely find someone better. Miriam said, Anthony, do you think so too? Let me tell you, even if I break up with you, don't think you can just sleep with me for free. If you don't give me a compensation of 10,000 yuan, I will sue you for rape. I've made my point clear. Either you give me 10,000 yuan as compensation, or you send your whole family away. Think it over carefully. After saying that, the sound of the front door opening came from next door. It seems that Miriam has left. It's really hard for me to evaluate Miriam as a person, whether it's a vocational college or a bachelor's degree. Her educational qualifications are quite valuable these days. Why does she choose to depend on a man to live? In her past life, she married a husband who was old enough to be her father, and in this life, she found an Anthony who only knows how to put on a facade. Clearly, she could live well on her own, and if she were to marry, she should find someone with shared values. But then I thought again. I lived even worse than Miriam in my past life. During those years when Miriam was secretly communicating with Anthony, she must have complained about me quite a bit. However, Miriam's actions have now posed a dilemma for the foolishly filial yet pretentiously affectionate Anthony, choosing between a loved one and family. Let's see how he makes his choice. Chapter 15. But before Anthony could make a choice, his siblings spoke up. Second brother, I think Miriam isn't just trying to scare you. It's one thing for her to ask you for money. But what if this gets out and you end up in trouble? If you ask me, you should just marry her. That way neither of you will be considered to be having an affair. Anthony said, but what about you guys? I can't just kick you out. His sibling said, second brother, but if we don't leave, you not only have to give her money, but you also have to take the risk. I think it would be better this way. Why don't you give us that 10,000 yuan, and we can find another place to live ourselves? Think about it. Giving the money to family is definitely better than giving it to a stranger, right? Upon hearing this suggestion, Anthony clearly seemed a bit tempted. He said, but I don't have that much money on me. I only have 10,000 yuan in total, and I need to save it for the next purchase. I couldn't see Anthony's siblings' expressions, but I heard the sound of their family gasping. In this day and age, having 10,000 yuan is truly a significant amount of money. They must have been hearing about Anthony having so much money for the first time, which is why they were all quite excited. His younger sister continued, "Second brother, how about this? You first give us 5,000 yuan, and we will take this money to find a place to live. The remaining 5,000 yuan will be considered as our investment. You can pay us back slowly, but when you pay us back, you must give us dividends. That money cannot be lent to you for free." Well, the one who got 5,000 yuan and a money-making treasure pot without any effort is truly the most calculating person in the Oldley family among them. Anthony did not reply immediately. He said he needed to think for 2 days. The crowd has dispersed over there. There is no more excitement to see, so I left the wall and returned to my room. In my previous life, I was in the midst of it all. When I faced Anthony's brother and sister-in-law, I used up all my energy, and I hated them deeply. But now I am an outsider watching the spectacle. I can't help but wish for more drama in their family to add some fun to my life. Although Anthony didn't respond immediately, based on my understanding of Anthony, he would definitely agree to the proposal made by his brother and sister-in-law. Sure enough, within 2 days, I saw their whole family joyfully moving out. It seems the agreement has been reached. Not long after, Miriam moved in. However, even the business capital is not very sufficient now, and Anthony is definitely not as generous with spending as he used to be. Miriam wants to buy new clothes today, plans to buy a gold necklace tomorrow, and later wants to buy a television, which really puts Anthony under a lot of pressure. Later, I heard him coaxing Miriam, saying that he would go to Yongqing to restock in a few days, and after selling the next batch of goods and making money, he would buy for Miriam. Miriam finally settled down, but this settling down is only temporary, because Miriam will soon discover that the money Anthony earns has to be shared with his family. Anthony worked hard and went through a lot, only to make a wedding dress for someone else. Miriam has left once again. Miriam is not someone who just thinks about love. Every time she enters a relationship, her purpose is very clear, which is to gain something from it. Since Anthony has no money now, she has no need to waste time on that crooked neck tree. During the time when Anthony and his whole family left along with Miriam, I truly felt a long-lost sense of tranquility. I complained to Peter, I really hope Anthony puts in some effort to win Miriam back, and then bring his whole family back, so that they can provide some gossip for the neighbors over tea. Peter clearly seemed a bit jealous of my performance. He said, "I thought about it. It's not very safe for you to live here alone, especially since Anthony might go crazy at any moment. Why don't you just move back to the dormitory, or we could get our marriage certificate, and I'll move in to live with you." I seriously suspect that he's just using this as an excuse. What he really wants is to get married quickly. I said, "Forget it. You haven't even graduated yet, and the school doesn't encourage students to get married. Besides, you often spend day and night in the lab doing research. Even if we got married, you wouldn't be home for long." Although I rejected Peter's proposal, I feel that his concerns are not without reason. Now Anthony and I both live alone, and our places are right next to each other. If Anthony one day suddenly becomes emotionally agitated and thinks that everything he has gone through is my fault, then I would really be in danger. Just when I was hesitating about what to do, my sister-in-law said she wanted to take my mom and my little niece to the capital city for a vacation during the holiday. This really helped me a lot, at least for the next 2 months. My safety concerns are guaranteed, and 2 months later, something happened that completely resolved my predicament. Anthony is going to marry Miriam. Chapter 16. I don't know what happened between those two, but anyway, Miriam agreed to marry Anthony. Moreover, I see Anthony's mother still comes to ask him for money every month, which means Miriam isn't after his money. So what does Miriam really want? She can't truly be after Anthony as a person, can she? However, I soon discovered that Miriam's belly had grown, indicating that they were getting married due to an unexpected pregnancy. But I still feel a bit strange. Miriam doesn't seem like the type of person who would compromise for a child, but that's no longer my concern. I just need to live my own life well. Anthony is that kind of person. Even if he stands at the forefront, society will still educate him properly. Our research institute issued an urgent scientific research task, and all participating personnel must participate in the research in complete isolation, without going out. So I didn't have time to pay attention to Anthony and their family's matters anymore. By the time I finished the research task and returned home, it was already the spring of the following year. I returned home and found that there was surprisingly no dust. It was very clean. It seems Peter usually comes over to clean. He must be worried that one day I would suddenly come back and have nowhere to rest. It's just that the flowers and plants in the yard have mostly died. But this can't be blamed on Peter. His research tasks are also quite heavy, so it's uncertain when he will have time to come out. The fact that he managed to tidy up the house is already quite good. I picked up some tools, preparing to clear out the area by the wall. Since the weather is nice now, I plan to replant some flowers and plants. I had just walked to the wall when I heard a sound coming from next door. Is it safe there? Won't anyone find out? Anthony went out to restock, and he won't be back for at least half a month. In the left yard lives a woman with a large ear, and the owner of the right yard has been gone for over half a year. Baby, I miss you so much. It's all because of that tigress at home who is so strict. I want to come see you, but I have to find an opportunity. Just when I finally manage to find a chance to come out, there's still someone watching you. To avoid raising suspicion from that tigress, you had to marry that deaf man to disguise your identity. It really is a pity for you. That tigress can't give birth herself, yet she won't let me find someone outside. It's really too much. As long as you understand my grievances, you must hurry up and deal with that tigress so I can bring my son back home for a family reunion. Got it. I still have to rely on their family's connections to climb up. Once I stand firm, I will definitely make her give way for you. Oh my, what am I hearing? I just stumbled upon Miriam in the act of cheating. I was wondering why Miriam suddenly wanted to marry the poor guy Anthony. It turns out it was to cover up and find a cheap dad for the child in her belly. I'm really curious what kind of expression Anthony would have if he found out about this. But right now, I certainly won't tell him about this. The longer someone raises another's child, the greater the shock will be when they find out. If Anthony is kept in the dark all this time, I wouldn't mind kindly revealing this news to him when his son turns 18. By that time, DNA testing technology will have been widely adopted, so I won't be without evidence. Even if Anthony is down on his luck and can't afford the testing fee, I wouldn't mind sponsoring him throughout the process. Haha, just thinking about it makes me happy. The man next door didn't come in vain. He left only after having a warm moment with Miriam. I peeked through the crack in the door and found that the man looked somewhat familiar. Oh my, isn't that Miriam's old flame from her past life? Miriam's standards for choosing partners have been quite similar in both lives. She can accurately categorize the same batch of fish into the pond, which is truly impressive. In the following half-month, that man would occasionally come over. It wasn't until Anthony returned from Yongqing with supplies that the two of them began to keep a low profile. Chapter 17. I have encountered Anthony several times in the alley. He looked like a man drained by wine and women, and it seems he is not very settled either. Indeed, men become bad once they have money, the money that Anthony earns, aside from the dividends he gives to his vampire family and what he spends on himself, leaves very little for Miriam. He actually thinks that Miriam stays by his side because she is deeply in love with him. Anthony's attitude towards Miriam has also greatly diminished. After he has possessed her, she has become worthless to him. On that day, when I got off work and returned home, I found several people gathered at Anthony's door, watching the commotion. From the middle of the crowd, I could occasionally hear an old woman's curses and a child's cries. I asked an elderly man who was watching the scene, "What happened here?" The old man kindly replied, "The old lady from this house has collapsed. Her husband brought her here to seek refuge with their second son, saying he wanted to leave her with the second son's family to take care of. The daughter-in-law of that family wouldn't let them in, so they are stuck at the door." Another aunt interjected, "You came late and missed the whole story. Not only do they want to leave the old lady to be taken care of by the second son, but they also want to leave the grandson born by the youngest son here for care as well." The old man asked, "What? Did both of the youngest sons' couple die? Otherwise, why would they send the child to be raised by someone else?" The aunt said, "They didn't die, they're alive. They said that the couple is going to Pengcheng to make a lot of money, and it's inconvenient to take the child with them, so they left the child behind. That old man couldn't get in the door, so he just left the person behind and walked away. Now there's only one old and one young left. One is crying, and the other is scolding." The elderly men and women spoke vaguely, each saying a word, but I understood it clearly, mainly because I experienced this in my past life. At that time Anthony's mother also collapsed on the Kong around this time. Seeing the situation was not good, his brother and sister-in-law immediately said they would go out to work, leaving the child behind and running away. Seeing this, Anthony's elder brother and sister-in-law took the initiative to propose separating the care of their parents. They would take care of the elderly man, while the old lady would be taken care of by Anthony. As for the son of the third family, he was sent over under the pretext of not wanting to part with his grandmother. Anthony would certainly not refuse such things. After all, it's not him who suffers. Anthony, his mother, lies in bed, but her mouth is never idle. She not only throws tantrums all day but also keeps cursing nonstop. Sometimes, to deliberately make things difficult for me, she would intentionally make a mess on the Kong for me to clean up. Because of her instigation, my son is also distant from me. He looks down on me just like family others. As for the youngest son of the third family, he is even more of a white-eyed wolf. He has been lying since he was little, and stealing money from the family has become a daily routine. Oh dear, I can't think about it anymore. I just want to slap myself. In my previous life, wasn't I just the quintessential female protagonist of a melodrama? But fortunately, in this life, I have finally distanced myself from that bizarre family and can watch the commotion as an outsider. Soon Anthony returned, bringing his mother and nephew into the house. Once they went in, the sounds from the entrance faded away. They must have gone inside. Seeing that there was no more excitement to watch, the crowd gradually dispersed. But I'm different. I occupy the best position. I hurried back home, pressed against the kitchen wall, and listened to the subsequent gossip. Miriam, you eat my food and wear my clothes. What right do you have to stop my mom from coming in? Anthony, why are you being such a fool? All these years, you not only have to support your parents, but you also have to take care of your elder brother and his family. All the benefits go to them. Now that your mom needs someone to take care of her, they just send her to you. And not only do you have to take care of your mom, but you also have to look after your brother's son. What's going on? Is this child the result of an affair between you and your sister-in-law? Anthony angrily said, Miriam, how can you speak like that? Do you think everyone is as ignorant as you? As an older brother, I take care of my younger brother's family. How has that become so despicable in your mouth? Besides, the two of us at home with my nephew don't need you for anything. It's just a matter of cooking a little extra when making meals. What's so difficult about that? I tell you, it is only right for me to support my mother. I am not discussing this with you. I am informing you. Then there came the sound of things being smashed next door. I don't know if it was Miriam venting or Anthony asserting his authority. Anthony is at least considered the head of the family. He has the final say, and his mother and nephew have settled in their home. Listening to the daily noise coming from next door, I think Anthony's mother must be similar to how she was in her past life, but Miriam has suffered because of it. Chapter 18. After a few months passed like this, one day, after Anthony went out again to restock, someone knocked on our front door. I peeked through the crack of the door and found that the one knocking was Anthony's nephew David. I didn't open the door but asked him directly through it. What do you want? David said, my second aunt is not home, and my grandma and I have no food to eat. Can you bring me some food? I said, why should I give you food? You're not my son. David said, we are all neighbors. My grandma said that neighbors should help each other. I can smell the delicious food from your house, so you have to share some with me. Still as domineering as in the previous life, I said, I won't give you food. What can you do to me? If you don't give me food, I'll poop at your doorstep. After I'm done, I'll throw it into your yard so you can't eat either. Indeed, he is a mischievous child. The tricks he comes up with are truly disgusting. I opened the door. David said, are you scared? Hurry up and bring me my food. I don't like vegetables. I only eat meat, so pick out the best for me. I said, you've gotten used to being treated like royalty at home, and now you come here to act tough, huh? Today, I'm going to show you what it means to hit a brick wall. I grabbed David by the collar and took him straight to the police station. I said, officer, this child doesn't seem to belong to any family. He came to our doorstep begging for food. I suspect he has been abducted. I heard that children who are abducted are often made to pickpocket on the streets. You all need to investigate this thoroughly. If you can help him find his family, even if he has to serve a few years in prison, it would still be better than the life he is living now. David shouted, I'm not a thief. I live in that alley. I said, nonsense. I've lived here for several years, and I've never seen you before. Little friend, telling lies will get you punished. The officer from the police station said, since he claims to be from your alley, I'll call the neighborhood committee to send someone over to identify him. They are more familiar with that area. What if he really is someone's child? Before long, someone from the neighborhood committee arrived, a staff member named Eric. Eric said, I know this child. He lives next door in the Lee family. He just moved in not long ago, and since you're not often at home, it's normal that you haven't seen him. I said, really? But what's going on next door? They don't seem to be taking care of the child, letting him go out to beg. I think you should go next door and see if they're facing any difficulties. Otherwise, how could they not even have food to eat? Eric said, you wouldn't believe it. The male head of their household has gone out with a letter of introduction and has been gone for several days. His wife took a lot of things early this morning, And now the house is left with only a paralyzed old man and a small child. This situation is unacceptable. I really need to go over and understand the situation. After saying that, Eric, along with a police officer, went to Anthony's house. According to Anthony's mother, Miriam has been missing since early this morning, and she took the child with her. The police officer checked and found that some of Miriam's clothes were also missing, indicating that it was a planned departure. Eric said, Anthony's introduction letter is scheduled for next week, and we can't get in touch with him now. This old man and child need someone to take care of them. If he comes back, it will be too late. What are we going to do? When Eric said this, he glanced in my direction several times. What does that mean? Do you want to throw this hot potato to me? I quickly said. Fortunately, Miriam left today. Since I was at home, I could help the kids call the police. If that kid had come a little later, I would have had to go to the research institute for a closed mission, and I wouldn't have had this good luck then. Enough said. I still need to go home and pack my things, so I'm leaving now. After saying that, I slipped away, afraid of being stuck with someone. I really did pack a few pieces of luggage and squeezed into my colleague's dormitory for a few days. I was counting the days, estimating that Anthony should be back, so I moved back home. Chapter 19. When I returned, just as I walked into the alley, I was stopped by an auntie who wanted to gossip with me. Do you know that something happened next door? I was shocked. It can't be that someone died. That would be too disturbing. The auntie said, no one died, but something was stolen. I asked, when did this happen? Our house is so close to theirs. Could we have been affected too? Not really. It was an inside job. The wife of that guy from the Lee family ran away, and before leaving, she took all the valuable things from their house. The Lee guy called the police, but neither the person nor the money has been found. I couldn't help but praise Miriam in my heart. Well done. Although I don't particularly like Miriam, the enemy of my enemy can barely be considered my friend. She makes Anthony uncomfortable, which makes me feel good. I was enjoying the gossip when I didn't expect Anthony to turn the attention back to me. I hadn't even entered the door when Anthony blocked my way. Anthony looked scruffy and unkempt, which was really off-putting. I tried to bypass him to get inside, but he stopped me. Bianca, I agree to marry you. I felt like I was hallucinating. He just blurted that out without any context. Could it be that he has truly lost his mind? Seeing that I didn't say anything, Anthony continued speaking. Bianca, I know that you haven't married all these years and have deliberately lived next door to me because you still have feelings for me. Since you value me so much, I have decided to fulfill your wish and marry you. I said, Anthony, are you out of your mind? On what basis do you think I want to marry you? Anthony said, otherwise, at your age, why haven't you gotten married? I've figured it out now. You and Peter are just a smokescreen, pretending to be together to annoy me. But now that I have promised to marry you, you must keep your duties and not associate with Peter anymore. I haven't eaten well these past few days, so hurry home and make me something to eat. Then you need to take apart and wash the bedding in my mom's room. The smell in there is too strong, and it's really unbearable. Damn, this is really making me furious. I was just about to have a showdown with Anthony when suddenly, the front door of my house opened, and Peter walked out. Peter said, what's with someone talking in their sleep during the day? If you want to hire a nanny, go to the labor market. Why are you coming to our doorstep? Bianca is a research and development engineer, quite valuable, so don't waste our time here. Seeing Peter come out, Anthony angrily said, I'm talking to Bianca. What does it have to do with you? I have decades of emotional foundation with Bianca. You little pretty boy can't just meddle in. Seeing Anthony getting more and more unreasonable, I used all my strength to slap Anthony hard across the face. Anthony, if you've gone crazy, go get treated. Don't make a scene at our doorstep. I have no interest in you at all. Even if all the men on this planet except you were to perish, I still wouldn't marry you. Isn't it just a matter of cleaning and serving? Any nanny can do that. Don't tell me your big boss is too stingy to spend this money. After being hit by me, Anthony was certainly unwilling. He wanted to hit me back, but Peter couldn't let that happen. He intercepted the hand that Anthony was trying to hit me with and forcefully swung it back. Anthony threatened, Bianca, don't get too proud. There will definitely be a day when you regret this. Anthony left, and only then could I properly talk to Peter. Why did you suddenly come over? Peter said, I just finished my last project and thought I'd come over to surprise you. Fortunately, I came today. Otherwise, you wouldn't know how Anthony would have entangled you. I said, you have no idea. Miriam ran away, leaving behind a paralyzed old man and a child. The neighborhood committee even wanted me to take over the care, which scared me into running away. These past few days, I've been squeezed in the dormitory with Xiao Huang, and I'm waking up with a sore back and aching waist. Peter said, you live so close to Anthony. I'm not at ease just right. My elder brother said he needs to move because there's not enough space at home. How about we swap houses with him? Although my elder brother's house is small, the location there is much better than here. They can't live comfortably because they have 3 children, but now with family planning, we will only have 1 child in the future, so we will definitely be able to live there comfortably. Peter, his elder brother's house is in the city center, and the location is indeed much better than here. Moreover, with each getting what they need, their family can live more spaciously, and I can stay farther away from Anthony. This exchange benefits us both. After Peter talked to his elder brother and sister-in-law also agreed very much, so I quickly moved out. After moving away, I had less risk of being entangled by Anthony and also lost the joy of watching Anthony make a fool of himself. 2 years later, I married Peter. Peter respected me greatly, and my life with Peter after marriage was very happy. The next time I heard news related to Anthony was from elder sister-in-law. Chapter 20. Elder sister-in-law said that her neighbor has been buying noble orchids, and it is said that they are very popular in other regions. She mentioned that she also wanted to buy some noble orchids to raise and asked if I wanted to buy some too. Hearing elder sister-in-law mention it, I remembered the once booming trend of noble orchids. How many people have become wealthy because of this, and how many have lost their lives because of it? In previous lives, these matters were publicized in newspapers to an overwhelming extent, but Anthony always remembers how much money people made, while ignoring the significant risks they took. At first, Anthony also wanted to participate in the acquisition of noble orchid, although I strongly opposed it. My opposition was in vain. Anthony was determined to go his own way, searching everywhere for information on noble orchid for sale, but in the end, Anthony's plan fell through. This is thanks to David, who stole and squandered the money that Anthony intended to use for speculating on noble orchid. Otherwise Anthony might not have been able to live steadily until Miriam became single again. This time no one stopped him, so he let go and prepared to make a big move. However, Anthony quickly encountered setbacks. He had collected many fine noble orchids here, intending to sell them in the Spring City where the price for noble orchids was currently the highest. He boarded the train to Spring City with dozens of noble orchids, and as soon as he got off, he was targeted by someone. Anthony not only had his belongings stolen, but he also had a leg broken by someone. Once, Anthony was not recognized as disabled due to his single-sided deafness, and he caused a scene at the neighborhood committee. Now he finally meets the criteria for disability. Anthony was delayed at the hospital for a long time, and when he returned to the capital city, even worse things happened. His nephew David went missing. The housekeeper suspected he was abducted by traffickers, although they had reported it to the police. There had been no news. Not long after, Anthony's mother also passed away. When his mother died, her muscles had atrophied, and she had bedsores all over. Having lived a full 10 years less than in her previous life, Anthony had a big argument with the nanny, saying that she was not taking good care of the elderly and the children. The nanny did not indulge Anthony's bad habits, saying that she had to take care of both the elderly and the children, and also had to do laundry and cooking, so she simply couldn't manage everything. When the elder sister-in-law told me about this, she sighed. Isn't it just the same things we do every day as wives? We still have to work, and after work, we have to do housework. But in the eyes of men, the housework we do every day is simply not worth mentioning. They say that women can hold up half the sky. The men in the family can indeed earn money, but we women also need to earn money. After earning money, we still have to do all the housework. We are not even as good as maids. Maids do housework as a job, while we do housework after our work is done. One person does 2 jobs but only receives 1 salary. We can't even get half a good deal from the men. What are we really marrying for? If it weren't for the children, I would truly want a divorce. After the elder sister-in-law left, Peter immediately sprang out. Bianca, I must oppose what the elder sister-in-law said. I never regarded you as a maid. I do all the cleaning in the house. The reason I ask you to cook is that you do it better than I do, not because I want to boss you around. Don't start thinking about divorce, okay? I deliberately put on a stern face and said, that's not certain. It depends on your performance, Peter said pitifully. Then can't I learn to cook? I burst out laughing. Great scientist. You should focus on your research. I don't mind putting in more effort for this family, but the premise is that you shouldn't think of it as something I am obligated to do. You need to understand that I am also working hard to make this family better. Peter said, don't worry, I will never forget this in my lifetime. Living another life, heaven has finally been kind to me, allowing me to become the person I wanted to be and letting me meet someone worth my efforts. I originally thought that my connection with Anthony was completely over, but unexpectedly, I had the chance to see Anthony again. I was at work when the security guard told me that someone was looking for me at the door. When I went out to take a look, it turned out to be Anthony, whom I hadn't seen for a long time. At that moment, I was happy and fulfilled, while Anthony was down and out, creating a stark contrast between our two states. Anthony asked me, "So we can't go back to the past, can we?" I replied, "You came all this way just to ask me such an irrelevant question?" Anthony said, "Bianca, what I did to you before, I have received my retribution. If I could have cherished you properly, whether in this life or the next, we would have been very happy. But I destroyed everything with my own hands. I came to find you because I actually need your help. I killed Miriam and her man. The police are after me, and I will soon be caught by them. But once I am caught, no one will take care of my son. I really can't bear to send him to the orphanage at such a young age." "Bianca, you are very kind-hearted. You surely wouldn't want to see my son become an orphan. I beg you, will you adopt him?" I said, "Anthony, didn't you talk to Miriam before you killed her? Didn't she tell you that her son isn't actually yours? The month that child was born doesn't even match up. Did you really believe Miriam when she said he was a premature baby?" "Yes, you really did believe it. And you went around showing off, saying your son is lucky. Although he was an 8-month premature baby, he weighed a full 8 pounds. The neighbors have long been speculating privately, saying that the child definitely isn't yours. But what I'm telling you isn't just a guess. It's something I heard with my own ears Miriam say to that man of hers. I originally planned to present this news as a gift to you at your son's 18th birthday party, but it seems you won't make it to that day. I have no choice but to tell you in advance. Listen to me." Anthony rushed over wanting to hit me, but was stopped by the arriving police. If it weren't for seeing the police, I wouldn't have dared to say those provocative words to anger Anthony. I want to take revenge, but I don't want to risk my own life in the process. Seeing Anthony being taken away by the police, I finally felt completely relieved. Before loving others, one should love oneself. When flowers bloom, butterflies will naturally come.